Hey everybody, and welcome to another Learn to Digitize video. I am Sue and I am from OML Embroidery and OML Digitizing. And today is class 4. Yay for class 4. This one's awesome. Today we're going to work on a special technique and it is called embossing. And I'm going to, through the magic of editing, bring up a pretty picture and show you exactly what it is. Now if you look on it, it's done on a towel, and the towel, it doesn't have a huge nap, but it has a high enough nap. And what we're doing with this technique is basically putting down with stitches, holding down the nap, the little sticky uppy parts that are sticking up, in some parts, and then letting them through in others. And it's a really nice effect, and it's actually a lot more simple to do than you'd think. And there's many ways to do it, and we're gonna do 2 ways. And there's no pictures for this. We're gonna rely on our grid and a few techniques to make the shapes and come up with some really cool designs. This will be one that everyone can come up with their own things. Do it how I'm showing, but I'm going to tell you many different options. So let's get started. Let's get right into it. I am going to turn on my grid so I can see what I'm doing. We're not bringing in any pictures or anything like this. What we're going to do is go to digitize. Now this first one we're going to do is simple, and we're going to use the shapes that were provided. And I'm going to do a square, and I'm going to do it, let's do it about like this. Now here's a quick way to get your measurements. I'm just going to pull out a square like this and double click, and it's done. We do want this as an outline. So I have to do select and then do outline. And then right up here at the top, you can see the width. Now, I didn't even pull it out anywhere close to being perfect. But what we want for this one is about a 5. And, oh, make sure you turn the unlock here because we want it to be 5 by 5 and hit enter. And look, it changes the size to be exactly what I want. Awesome. I like that. That is a quick tip to not mess around with pulling out sides and checking numbers. You just put the numbers in that you want. Now I'm going to zero center this because I want it right in the center. And I am going to right click and I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. So I want it at about 6.5 and 6.5, enter. Now this is just what I'm doing. You can come up with different sizes. Generally, bigger is better for this effect. It's just so much nicer. It's so cool. What we want to do, this is the outside one. Now we want to change it to satin. And I want to make this just a little bit thicker. You can play around with it. Now what'll happen when you're doing satin and it's too thick, it's just going to start splitting, which, you know, is a nice effect too. We can do that. But I fiddled around and I put 0.150 and enter. And that makes it just the right amount of thickness on it. And if you guys are doing in metric, which, you know, really I should be, but I'm not for whatever reason, just click off. Let's go here to metric. And it's 2 millimeters for metric. So for some reason I do it in the US, even though I'm Canadian and we started metric. I just do it that way. So I'll try to keep remembering to flip back and everyone can check. Let's center this. I think I can do it with 0. There we go. That's a quick way of center. Now on this one, we are going to, let's change the first one. So I guess this one, we're just going to do a fill stitch for now, and we're going to work with this, and then we're going to make a duplicate of it. And on the duplicate, and how you make sure that you did it right, look, it's not, I didn't duplicate it for some reason. So there, duplicate. Now we can see that we've done it. We want to change this one to an outline. And again, on the outline, and make sure you're on it, we're going to change it to satin. And you can change it up a little bit. I think it looks better because it stands out more, but you can decide what you want to do. So 0.150. And again, these are just numbers that I played around with, and I hit enter. So right now, look what we've done so quickly. We've made a square, and we copied it, and we put in the numbers, and we made it bigger, and we have a background. Now, this is just tatami stitches, so make sure you're on the right one. So I'm going to click here. this is just tatami stitches, and that's going to be way too thick. That is not quite the effect that we want. So let's go to effects. Nope, let's go to stitching. We do not want the underlay for sure. You can leave the pull comp on if you want. That's fine. But what we want to do is play around with the spacing here. And what we want to do is kind of make, you know, a grid, I guess. So you can play around. Let's do it a little bit. We want it higher numbers. Whoops. And if you look, because I am in true view, if you look, you can see the changes. But, okay, wait till it stops. I way over clicked there. 0.20 is what I figured out. And is that thin enough? Nope, that is not thin enough. I had a technical difficulty on the playback, so I'm going to edit this in. So sorry about the jump, but I don't want you to miss this part. This is what it looks like after we set the stitch to 0.20, the fill, it's tatami, 0.20. And this is what it looks like. And this is the first part of the grid. It's at a nice angle right there. And there's two ways you can make the rest of the grid, because really this is only going one way. You can see it, and it wouldn't hold the fibers down well enough. We need more stitches than that. So Hatch provides a really simple way of doing it. You can simply add underlay and change it to the tatami underlay. And that is how instantly you get a perfect grid. And that's how I did it, but it didn't show up on that. So we'll get back to that. Now, the other way is a little more difficult. I really think the tatami underlay, doing it this way, is absolutely fantastic. This is the grid you can use for freestanding lace too, by the way. So if you're dabbling with that, that's how to do it. The old way is to take this off, and what you want to do is duplicate this and make sure you're on the one you just duplicated, and you want to go into reshape, and all you have to do is change the angle. And I always grab the wrong one with this mouse. I drive myself crazy, but there we go. Let's put this back, and you see what's happening there is the angle is changing, therefore forming our grid. And it doesn't matter what angles you do as long as they're opposite. And that is fine too. That's a nice one. You might even want to do it a third time. But I think Hatch has it under control perfectly by doing the underlay with the tatami, and that would even do it too, and you would still have three, and that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. So yay Hatch on that. All right, let's go back to where we were, and everything else hopefully will be fine. So I changed it to 0.20 in inches, and I can flip back and tell you the numbers in metric so everybody's on the same part. 5.08 millimeters. So let's flip back to US. And if you look at it in here, that's a nice grid. That I think looks absolutely excellent. And what that's going to do is hold down all of the nap that's supposed to peek up. So that looks pretty good. Zoom right in. Yeah, you can see. So those are nice numbers. You don't have to be exact on that. You can make it a little bit looser. You can make it tighter. Whatever you think looks really good on it. And this should be just about right. Again, you'll be able to still see the color through. Now you can go ahead and you can change angles and you can do different things like that. But for now, this is just a quick one, just so everybody can see how it's done. So now we have all the nap stuck down, and the nap through here is going to show through. So it's going to make, you know, that border is going to stitch out nice and hold some down. This is going to show the nap, so it'll be all puffed up, and then this will be the border. And it really looks good. I'll bring up the picture again of the one that I did, and it's just simple like this. So what is the next thing we want to do is we want to add a lettering. Now you can put a word in here, you can put mom. For this one, we're just going to put a letter, and I'm going to show you how it works. We're going to put the letter, what can we do? We did B in there, so let's do, how about S for Sue? And okay, that's really small. We need to make it bigger. And for this to have the great effect that you want to do this as big as you can. Maybe you don't have to do it 7 by 7, but try to keep it at 5. If you do it small, you'll see there's just not enough that's going to show through. But this one looks good. Now, I went through, and what you want are fat fonts because we really want to cut out a nice space. And I really like the Garamond font. I just thought it added a little bit of style. I'm going to make it even bigger. And it doesn't matter what you do with the font, that it's satin stitches and it's really fat and, you know, it's starting to separate and everything. That's okay because we're not really going to use it. Now, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can click on the background mesh that we created nicely, and you can cut holes. So then you can plot out the stitches for this. And if you do it smaller, you might have to do that because the second way doesn't always work if it's smaller. But we're just talking about big. So you would cut a hole and make sure it's wide enough. That's the key to it. You want it kind of fat. I'm actually going to make this S just a little bit wider here just to fill the space up nicely. Let's zero it out again and see how much better that looks already. Let's make them even a little bit fatter. So just, you know, go by your eye on this and just come up with what you think looks good. So again, cut out some holes or keep clicking on the S, and we're going to let Hatch do the work for us because I like it when Hatch works, and Hatch does a great job. And all we're going to do is go remove overlaps. And that was under Edit Objects, by the way. And you can see here, it's done its work. It's done its work. Thank you very much. And we're going to pull it out and look with what we're left with. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I really think it's amazing. I think it does a fantastic job. And that's it. That's a basic embossing design. That's absolutely, absolutely perfect, just like that. Stitch it out. And one of the keys to it, you can either use contrasting thread to match the towel, or you can use similar thread, and they both have an absolutely beautiful effect. So black didn't really work, but I had a nice bright pink towel that I did the letter B on for my daughter Beatrice, and I used pink thread, almost exactly the same. Oh man, it's just beautiful. So this right there would take you 5 minutes to do. And it makes a great gift for anyone, for anything. People love it, absolutely. So let's try a different way. So this is the basic way. And you know what? You can do this with a circle. You can do it with an oval. Just reduce your tatami stitches to whatever settings. It's under spacing right there, to whatever settings. Just gives you a nice grid, just exactly like that. Super easy, simple. Okay, so let's go to File, New Blank Design, or the keyboard shortcut, as we can see here, is Control N. And let's take our time with the next one. We're going to make it a little more complicated. And we're going to plot out the shape ourselves. Now, I may get it wrong, but I'm going to show you how to fix it. It's really easy. So we're going to do kind of a simple yet cool shape to make this all come together. And then we're going to do a few different things to make it look different. So let's go to digitize, and we want to digitize a closed shape. And what we're going to do is go to about here. Now I'm going to make it bigger, but I just want to show you how to do it. And what we're using is our grid as a guideline to get everything set up perfectly. So let's go to -2 and 2. I'm going to want this a little bit bigger, but that's okay. And left click, and then we're going to go to maybe right here, and we're going to right click, and then we're going to go right here, and we're going to left click. And that didn't work, so I'm doing it wrong. It has to go here for right click and here for left click. And that might be okay. So we want to go to, how about to -2? And what we're going to do is copy that shape and just get the basics, like these complicated corners. So if you look here, it's straight, and then we're going to go in one because we're kind of matching with up here. So we're going to go in one right in the corner, right click, and then we're going to go back here and left click. Do you see how that worked? How cool is that? So we want to match up from there. Now you can pull out markers if you want, but I can just, eyeball it. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to go click right on the corner, and we're going to right click, and then we're going to back up here to left click, and then we're going to go up here and we're going to do the exact same thing. So left click, right click, and then we can hit enter. And okay, that looks kind of crazy. That's okay, bear with me. But look, it's all lovely and it matches, and it's a pretty groovy shape. It's just a bit too long. So maybe when I do this, it'll look a little bit better. I think that's pretty cool. It looks like it has cutouts. We can do it a little differently. We can try it another way and see if we can set it up a little bit differently. Let's see what we can do. Do we want to try it again? We can, because it's just easy when you're using your grid. And we can make this a little smaller, and let's see if we can do the corners a little bit differently. I kind of like this because it looks like it's cut out. Let's change this to an outline though, and let's make it satin. And obviously, okay, that didn't work. It needs to be made bigger, and that's why this happened. But right now it's quite tiny, and that is not what we want. So we'll leave it at single stitches, and let's try to do it just a little bit differently. So let's do closed shape, and we're just going to ignore this guy. This is our first try, and that's fine. And let's do it, a little bit bigger. So let's go here. Shove that guy out of the way because we're not going to pay attention to him. So this time when we're doing the corners, we're going to try it a little bit bigger and see what we like. So this is my base, how it's set out. And we're going to go, instead of going 1, we did 1 last time, let's go 2. And right click and left click. And let's go down here, and we're going to do the same thing. Remember, we're using our grid to help us design this. And I don't have auto scroll on, so I'm just going to scroll. I want you to be able to see this. And so we're going in 1, but 2 down, right click, and then left click. And I'm thinking that is going to be a little bit better, but you know what? We'll see. So we're going to left click here, and we're going to right click, and then we're going to go back out here up at the same level. I'm matching it with this one over here. And we're going to left click. That is how you come up with your own shapes. You can plot it out using the grid. So we want to go right to here. Whoops, right to here. See now what had happened? I was a little bit off there. So let's go back. Do you see what happened? I should have been over there. So let's backspace. Let's just do it again, because that's going to happen to you. What I did is that this should have been here. So we can make this a bit smaller and go up a little bit, and now we can see it a little bit better. So that's what I did. I just pulled it in a square. No biggie, we're just going to do it again. So we're matching here. Let's go here with the right click, and this time we're going up to match with this line, right? Or this one's even closer, even better. Left click, and we're going to go up to this line, and we're going to left click, and we're going to go into right click, and then you can just simply hit enter and it's done. So I think I like this one a little bit better. Now this one's smaller, but I think I kind of like this shape a little bit better. Whoops, I clicked there by accident. Let's go to reshape, or sorry, select. And it's kind of big, but I think we can work with that. Let's make it even though, because it's not even. So we can make it 6.5 and whoops, how about 6.5 and hit enter. And I'm thinking I like that. So let's see what our satin stitches do here. It's poking out a little bit, but that's okay. I kind of like it. You could also easily do a motif stitch on it. And that's what I think we'll do for this one. Nice and thick. That looks a little bit different than the other one, but that's, you know what, that's okay. I kind of like how our shape has worked. Now I'm looking at it here and I see that I moved it in not the right amount, and I'm thinking, well, that looked wrong. It isn't wrong. And look, I made another mistake here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 in between, and I only did 3. So no biggie, we just fixed that just like that. I just moved everything in so it's all the same, and there we go. And now it's fixed, and now I really do like it better. So again, with the sizes, let's do it 6.5. 6.5. So you don't have to worry about making mistakes. You just do it how you want. I kind of like that. I kind of think that's cool. Let's do our satin stitches, and it all works out fine. Let's make them the same. 0.150, same settings as we did in the first one. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. It's just a groovy shape. It's just awesome. So let's right click, slide that over so we have another copy of it. And we're going to make this one 5 by 5. And we're basically doing the same things as we did before. Let's get rid of this guy because he didn't quite have the look that I want. But you know, trial and error is kind of fun, especially for something like this. And I want to zero it out because I want it to be centered. Zero it out. Now you can play around with the shapes, and you don't even have to do it fancy like that. That's just a little dip in there, and it's all right. I kind of like it. I just thought it made everything look really cool. So 0.150, enter. Now we have it nice and thick. Then what we want to do on this one is we want to duplicate it again and make sure we're on the right one, and we're going to change that to fill just for now. And then what we have to do is move this one up because we want the behind to stitch and then this part to stitch afterwards. What do you guys think of the shape? I think that's pretty cool for just whipping it off just like that. And remember too, this blank part is going to have nice fluffy parts showing through, and it really does look good. So then on this one, we're making it just a little bit fancier, and we are not going to use the tatami stitch in the grid. What we're going to do is a motif stitch, and it has a completely different effect, but I actually like that, and I actually like that one that I just picked. It's the first one up there. So let's go to, I just want to see it a little bit better. I just want to maybe change the colors to make it a smidgen brighter. Yeah, I think you guys can see red a little better, although I'm sure it's probably perfectly clear. And I like to do these in one color, but of course you can change the colors. You can use variegated thread. The idea of this is you want it pretty close together. Now you can go and play with the width and height and get any one of them to work, but I'm going to show you the difference here. This one's nice and tight, and you see only the little spaces in here. They would have a little fluff showing through maybe, and it would look okay. But if you were going to do something like this, it would be okay. You really wouldn't be able to see the effect because look how much space is in between there. So what you could do is shift them around so the hearts are closer, and that might work. But I would recommend, you know, just messing around just to pick, you know, the satin stitch one seems to look the best. Let's try this one. See, that would show, that would be actually probably a groovy pattern, a little bit of tufts showing through. That would be kind of neat. Bow ties. Let's see what else we have here. How about diamonds? Yeah, see, you could do that too. I think that would look great. I might even pick that one. It's called Kite 09. And I'm sure the Janome people have something similar. Let's see. That one's kind of cool too. I actually like the arrows as well. So yeah, you can play around with it. Again, I would go, see, that one has a bit too much space. It still might look cool, but you know, you kind of minimize the effect of what we're trying to do. That one is perfect. I really like that one. Try this one. That one would work too. Okay, block is what I want. That is a groovy effect, and an excellent choice for what we're doing. So let's go back here and let's go to lettering and monogram. You could put a monogram in here. That would actually be beautiful with this groovy frame that we created. So let's go to lettering and let's do, I'm pretty stuck on the letter S. So let's do the capital letter S again. And we're going to make it bigger. Now we're going to try with just a block font and see what you guys think. It's not quite what I want, but any font will do as long as it's fat. We're going for fat fonts on this one. Now, I like the size of that. I definitely like the size of that. We've got our S selected, so let's go to Edit Objects, and we're going to do the wonderful Remove Overlaps. And wait a second, you can see that's probably going to look pretty good, isn't it? Yep, that's nice. Look at the nice sharp lines. So as long as you make it big enough, I think a lot of the fonts will work. Let's try another one. Because this is basically, once you get your frame done, you can use it over and over and over again. Just putting different letters in it. So I would save it almost as a template sort of thing. Remove overlaps. Let's click on the S. Let's go to lettering. And let's pick another one. Let's try even like a thinner one. How about a curly one? And let's see. Okay, well that looks terrible, but let's just see if it's gonna work. I would have to make this a little bit smaller because we're over the edge. I don't really like that as a big capital, but you know, to each their own. Could be a snaky or something like that. Let's just try and see if it's gonna work. It doesn't really balance out the center too, but you know what? That's okay. Let's try it. So remove overlaps, and as long as it's big enough, it will cut it out perfectly. See, it works. Why don't we try a script font? So we'll do the keyboard shortcut Control Z, and Control Z to go back. And now we can see that we're back far enough. Click on the letter. Let's go to lettering. And let's try to pick something kind of scripty. Ooh, how about Old English? That would be awesome. And I can tell this is going to work. Click on Remove Overlaps. It's done it, but let's see how it looks. Let's just see how it looks. Perfectly perfect. So if you're finding that the letters are just too thin, I mean, this is almost too thin in here, but I think it'll show up depending on what kind of towel you're doing. But if you're finding it's too thin, then you just need to make the whole thing bigger, the whole entire thing bigger. So let's do it one more time, and let's do the font that I picked, because I picked a different one. So that's another way of doing it. And when you can do the remove overlaps, I mean, if you guys thought this would take a long time, you're wrongity wrong, because it's pretty quick, isn't it? Woodstock script. How about we'll do a scripty? See, that's really cute. That's really cute. Let's make this dude a little bigger. I kind of like that one, and we're going to zero it out. And we're going to make sure it's selected, and we're going to do remove overlaps. And move them aside. You can see that it's done. That one's pretty good. I would actually prefer it to be fatter. The fatter the letters are, the better it's going to work. So let's do that again. I know we're doing a lot of repeating, but this is how it's done to fiddle around. I mean, it's nothing to click a button. We can make it even a little bit bigger this way. Might look good. Let's try. So fatter is a better effect. It just works better. Let's try. That would probably be much better. Okay, so we're going to leave this fancy S. Again, I prefer the Garamond. Let's do that so we can have a really good looking piece of kit by the time we're done here. And one more time to get rid of it. Let's click on that. Let's go to lettering. And we're going to go to, I just really liked the Garamond. As long as it's fat and you have it big enough, it should work just fine. Oh, my fat S. Oh, my fat S. We're going to make my S a little thinner. But I like it. You can see it has the thick serifs on the end here. Let's zero it out. And then that's going to be the end of our playing. And we're going to be good enough on this one. And then we're going to add some details to it. So let's go to remove overlaps and wait, and you can see that it's done. And I'm going to move the S out of the way. See, that's nice and thick, and I like the shape, so I think it'll work much better. So let's go to delete, and there is our finished thing. I think it's absolutely awesome. I think that's great. We can make it fancier. There's a few things we can do to this. Why don't we make the outside, let's press 0 so we can center it. Let's make the outside, make sure we're on the right one. Let's make it just a little bit thicker. So let's try 0.2. Enter. That's what I want. So that even gives it a different effect. Just play around with your settings. Again, if you go too far, it's just going to split it, which is fine. So let's try something really cool. Let's go to duplicate and make sure you're on the right one, the one I just duplicated. And let's put in a back stitch over top. And let's change it to 5 so it looks a bit thicker. Now, when that stitches out, because it's almost too thick, we can even make it a little bit thicker. This is going to stitch out through the middle and give it a real fancy effect. And I really like that. I think that is super easy to do and just gives it, a quick little bonus look. This is how it looks in True View. You really can't see it, or sorry, without True View. I tend to work in True View, but you have to switch off. If anybody noticed, when you are off True View, you can see all the points. You can see the center point, you can see the cuts, the start, the stop, you can see everything on it. When you are in True View, you basically see the true view of it. That's all it is. So make sure you're switching back and forth, whatever you're more comfortable in. The other thing we can do, I kind of really like this effect and I think it would stitch out really well. But why don't we try making the outside, which is the first one here, why don't we try making it a motif stitch and see what you think. See, now that's okay. I think that would have a nice effect. It's going to tie it down. I actually prefer the satin. And, oh, we have to set it again, 0.20. Enter. Nice and thick with the line through it. So try it that way and see what you think. And we can do a lot of other things. There's another one we can try. So I guess we're doing 3 today, but that's fine. 3 different ideas, and I'm hoping you guys come up with something fantastic. So let's do File, New Blank Design, and we are going to go back to Digitize. And this time we're going to work with a circle. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'm going to show you a couple things. So click, and I want it to be an oval. And I didn't make it big enough, nor did I center it. But we can fix that. Let's put our grid back on up here because I like to work with the grid. When you are making your own sort of designs, the grid helps you place and make everything center, that sort of thing. Now that one's 5, so why don't we pull this guy out just a little bit, because 6.5 is about all I can go for my hoop. So good enough. Let's zero him out again, and let's duplicate him, and let's change the color. How about we do that right from the get-go? So something a little brighter. How about this purpley thing, and this one is a purpley thing. Now the second one we want it changed to outline, and right away we are going to put it on a satin stitch or even a motif stitch. I'll do right there. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We're going to leave that one like that because I actually really like it, but I'm going to show you a couple different things we can do. So for this one, why don't we do not the matching one? I don't know. Can we do the dots and the dots? How about dots and squares? See, now that one's too much. I'm glad actually I clicked on that one, because that one's too much. You won't be able to see anything through it, and that's not quite the point. How about we go right to the bottom and see hearts? Hearts will work just fine. Now, I think that is a bit too fancy, so I'm going to take this one and I'm going to make it satin, and then I'm going to make it fat satin, 0.15. Oh. There we go. So far, looking good. Now, the other thing you can do is digitize, swirlies around it. It doesn't have to be just, a circle, a square. It can be any shape like the one we created. I actually liked working through that with you guys because it shows you just do it and then fix your mistakes, and it's not hard to do. But why not add some satin stitches, and you can go, up to here, I guess, circle, square, and use your grid, of course. Right click, left click, right click, left click. I'm not going to do the whole thing because you guys get the idea. And what it is you want it basically even. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing you guys do has to be perfect, but that would be one way of doing it. Now I'm off a little bit, but you know what? That's okay. It's going to add to the beauty of it and make that satin, and you guys would go all the way around it. So the only other thing we want to do is we want to move it. So I'm left clicking. There we go. And it's underneath now because we want to move this just a titch down. And I should have finished. See? Right there. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's make this guy a little bit thicker because we're talking about thick things. And if you carried that all around, how cute is that? Then, okay, so let's pretend it's all around, and you just can haphazardly try to keep them even, or not, just go crazy. Doesn't matter. It's still going to look good. Then we can start here, and we can right click, and we can left click, and we can right click, and we can left click. And, you know, you can almost make a flower out of it, but let's just do a couple here. So right click, left click. Now I'm using and I did that wrong. Didn't I? Right click? No, left click, right click, and left click. I did do it wrong. Blah, 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 blah. You know what would be even easier? Let's do it the easy way. Yep, let's do it the easy way. I love it when I think of ways for Hatch to do its thing. So let's change this again, 0.150, enter, and we gotta move these guys. We gotta be working there. So even doing something like that, and then all we have to do is right click, slide it over. Forget about plotting it all out again. You just want to tuck it down a little bit. And this one has to be moved up too, and they will attach nicely. I actually was thinking more up here is what I was thinking. And let's do right click, slide it down. So you can see just by playing with it just a little bit, we can come up with amazing designs. And you know, to add to it, to add to your basic shape that you're doing. Let's move this one a little over so it tucks in its edges. But that's super easy to do, and you can just make something. You can use motif stitches, but they're not quite thick enough. But you can, if you wanted to do just, you know, a circle around it and then fill it in with swirlies. But that is how easy it is to do. So we'll pretend we did this all around. We can repeat and flip this guy and do it on this edge. And you don't even have to do any more than that. So let's do that then, because I kind of like that idea. Let's do duplicate. And then we're going to slide this over, and then we're going to mirror it. We're going to have to fiddle around with the angle a little bit, but that's okay. And this is how you piece it together. And it's off a little bit because I put extra stuff. So this guy basically needs to fit in here. And you can see the angle's off, but that's okay. That's okay. We can do this. Click, and then this changes the angle, and then it needs to go up. It kind of looks like a bit of a mess, but it isn't. I promise you it isn't. Do it right after. And I think we need to adjust a little bit right there. So let's go into our reshape. And this is basically how you do it. All I want to do is move this just down a little bit more. And you can see when I zoomed in here, we need to work on little placements. And, you know, this one needs to be a bit longer too. But for now, that's good enough. So let's go back to the select. And just quickly, right there, we've made a cute little border. It's a little bit off on this guy, but you know what? That's okay. You guys are getting the idea. You can place them down. So the idea goes bloop, 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 and then 2, and then 1 on top. So play around with it. But then you've got something super fancy. Let's do the, whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing, lettering. So let's pick, what can we do? Well, let's stick with S. I'm super happy with S's. So, well, we can do OML. And no, we don't want you there. We want you there. So now, that's the next question. I make this big enough? It should be big enough. But let's try and see. We're just doing the same thing. OML looks pretty good. What do you think? I like it. I like it. And then let's go to edit. And let's go to our new favorite thing, which is remove overlaps. Click on it. you can see that it's done. And there you go. And look at that. And now, delete that guy. And now we've made a super fancy design just by adding a few clicks. And it would still work and it would look fantastic. Getting a little bit small, but not too bad. And look how these letters are going to show up. And this is going to look so pretty. If this was on a dark, pink towel or something, or even a light pink, it's going to look fantastic. And the color's going to show through. And that's super easy. So if you guys want to do these scalloped edges, do them and multiply them. You can do half and get them right. You can use the grid as a background or not. It looks even good if they're not right. Duplicate it, or you can use the layout tools. It'd be a little hard to place with the angles, but just fiddle around with the angles. You can't just, place everything and it's done. But I hope you guys try this and try different things. There, I showed you 3 ways with 3 different shapes to create your own shape, how to punch out the lettering, how to add, easy swirlies. You can get as fancy as you want on this. And how to make a great gift for anyone. That is from scratch. That's the best part about it. We didn't use templates. We didn't bring in an image. You did this all by yourself, and it is going to look great. Make sure you make everything thick enough. Make sure you use a nice thick background, or do it the first way we showed you, and add all the details that you want, and make sure you have nice fat lettering. And that is how you create embossing all by yourself here inside Hatch Embroidery Software. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this class, and I hope you have a ton of fun making your own embossing. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with in the group.